Mr. Navin Singh Jagmohan Singh, Chairperson of the Open University of Mauritius, Mrs. Subhashini Gopi, Officer in Charge, Deputy Registrars, staff of the Open University, graduates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking the Open University for inviting me to be its chief guest for today's graduation ceremony. It is indeed with much contentment and nostalgia as a former academic that I am here with you today, particularly as my relationship with the Open University dates back to as far as 2010, when I was the chairperson of the Tertiary Education Commission. And the government, then under the leadership of Prime Minister Navin Ramgoolam, passed the Open University of Mauritius Act, and Dr. G.O.S.K was appointed as the founder director general. Since then, the Open University has progressed steadily to become the institution with the highest enrollment among the public universities of Mauritius. Our country has certainly been very fortunate to have such a highly qualified, knowledgeable, and experienced academic as Dr. Sukon to lead the Open University continuously for over 13 years. Subsequent to his election to the National Assembly last November, he has been appointed to the very important and challenging position of Minister of Tertiary Education, Science and Research, and I think he certainly merits our warm applause and best wishes in his important mission and responsibility. Dear graduates, first of all, warmest congratulations to you. And today is a special and happy day for you, a day which will remain memorable in your life. It's the achievement of a goal and ambition, the reward for your years of hard work, discipline, perseverance, and sacrifice, devoted to the precious and deserving acquisition of specific knowledge and skills. As you celebrate your success, you will no doubt feel immensely grateful to your parents and families, to your teachers, to your fellow students, and to the university for its facilities and learning environment. Mrs. Gopi, the officer in charge and registrar, has already set the tone by her advice to you as graduates, and you will be given your award in a few minutes and become graduates of the university. She already has told you two very important things. One is be humble and don't feel that you're alone, and that in life it is important to work as a team. And you're well equipped now to be a team leader. And it's a very important responsibility because human beings, to do things with all their willingness, you need to have a leader. And you are now a team leader, and you should shoulder that responsibility. And I wish you good luck in this responsibility. The other thing she said is, this is not the end of the learning process, that in life you keep learning. And just before I joined the procession for this ceremony, I was talking with the academics who have been your teachers, and they, in their humbleness, say, when you are a lecturer and you are learning, you are teaching, with this category of students, because the majority of you here as graduates are already people with work experience. You have been working for a number of years, and it makes it very interesting for lecturers when they talk to students of this category who understand what they're talking about, because you've got work experience. You know what are the problems of industry, what are the problems at work. And one thing she has told you, Mrs. Gopi has told you, is that this is not the end of learning. And the lecturers told me that they themselves, while teaching you, they have learned a lot from you, from your experience, which means that it's a two-way traffic, right? They teach you and you teach them as well. And this is a wonderful kind of process, which I'm sure must have been enjoyable for you as students, and also for the academics. It must have been enjoyed. And that's why I said at the beginning that I've come here today with a lot of nostalgia, because I'm back in this academic environment where the biggest satisfaction you can get is talking to students and exchanging views and transmitting information, and you also learn from them. So it is important to remember, as she said to you, you never stop learning. In my old age, I'm still learning, because one thing which is not changing is change. It's constantly there. Things change all the time, and when things change, you have to adapt yourself, and that itself is a learning process. So, also, one thing which is very difficult in life is because we are human beings, and we're all individually different from every other person. And how do you therefore manage to deal with this kind of situation when you deal with human beings? And I always wonder, how do HR people do their job? Because every human being is a different person. And the most difficult thing is to deal with human behavior. And that's something, at my age, I still learn every day. So we have to thank Mrs. Gopi for her very important and intelligent advice. And my job this afternoon is to try to add a little bit more to that in terms of what advice may I give you by way of guidance. Well, be modest. She has said that. You be modest and respectful, and show plenty of gratitude for the support of your families, friends, teachers, and so on. As you are already in employment, it means that you are now well equipped, after your 3 or 4 years of study, to be more effective in your current jobs and to see how you can contribute with ideas. This is important, that you not just provide information for what you've learned. At the root of it is the need for innovation, and innovation comes when you submit ideas and you develop ideas, and that leads to innovation. So we look forward to your contributing ideas towards, first of all, by coming here and you're going back to your employment without having to continue to study for a while, to see how you can help towards improving the operational efficiency of your section or department where you work, and look for opportunities of advancement in your workplace or particular industry. Do not be afraid to suggest changes, but do it in a humble and constructive manner, so as not to antagonize your colleagues and superiors. Maybe the anecdote of my own experience as a young employee of the civil service many years ago, before I went to UK for my higher education studies. Maybe my story could provide you with some encouragement. On my first day as a civil status officer, with the duties of the registration of births, deaths, and marriages, I was told by my immediate superior to comply strictly to certain rules of the House. Thus, we should not open the office to the public before 10 a.m., and we must close the office door at 3:15 p.m. sharp, as shown on the notice board, supposedly to give us enough time to attend to other tasks, such as writing copies of acts of birth, which are regularly requested by the public. However, I soon found out that in fact we could easily start serving the public as from 9 a.m. instead of waiting for 10 o'clock and keeping people waiting outside, often for more than an hour, and some of them being women with their babies often crying. Fortunately, a few months after I started work, my superior was transferred to another office, and my new colleague agreed with me to disregard the notice and to open the door and start work as soon as we were ready, even before 9 o'clock, and to continue attending to the need of people who may have arrived before 3:30 p.m. Today, so many decades later, I suppose the procedure has probably improved, especially with computerization. Anyway, for the registration of deaths nowadays, you have the funeral services company, which will normally take care of this chore of notifying the government and for the family of the deceased to get the burial certificate. What I did as a new clerical officer was, of course, nothing extraordinary. But I felt at that time that the public deserved fair consideration and respect. And therefore, I managed to introduce the change when the occasion arose, changing an unfair situation which must have been going on for many years. So why did other people didn't do it during all these years? So, dear graduates, do your part to bring the change which may be necessary, and bring the change with the help of your colleagues, particularly in the public sector, where I think a lot of changes are needed. Even like simple things that occur to the public. And very often you go in the public service offices where there are not enough chairs for the people who are coming to sit down, and they keep standing, waiting. So there's very, very simple things which I think you can take the initiative and introducing changes rather than wait for the Civil Service College to tell you what to do. For those of you who have not yet found employment, I recommend that you contact the recruitment consultants for information and advice, and also watch for job adverts in newspapers and online. One simple advice I can give you before you attend employment interviews is to try to learn about the potential work organization which is interviewing you. Try to learn what are its products and services, and think about the positive attitude which an employer would seek from you, and what are the values you believe the potential employer would consider important for your conduct and performance. And, for goodness sake, never mention the name of the minister who might be a relative, cousin, or uncle of yours during the interview. Dear graduates, in a few minutes, you will be receiving your awards and become university graduates, being equipped for operating at particular levels of employment for the socio-economic development of our country. It is, of course, a very important change in your person. There are, however, other change aspects, such as the ability to adopt a more rational and analytical way in regard to the problems of Mauritius and a more balanced and independent assessment on matters of international relations. As a new graduate, you now belong to the class of the privileged few of the population who, as a result of the tertiary education you have received, should enable you to play a valuable contribution to the survival, progress, and welfare of the nation at this critical period of its existence by your influential action as an agent of change, or even better, as a catalyst for the change implementation, which is vital due to the many challenges our country is facing. Be an active person in whatever social or work organization to promote greater awareness and participative action of the ordinary citizen. In this context, it is heartening to note from the budget speech of the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance the vision of the new government to achieve the economic transformation of Mauritius through the application of knowledge and technology, the creation of a National Research and Innovation Institute, and the requirement for all public enterprises and parastatal institutions in future to submit their development plans with research and innovation as platform. And I believe that it will certainly lead to the advent of greater employment opportunities for graduates. This new era reminds me of the exciting early days of the University of Mauritius during the 70s, when its mission was to meet the country's urgent manpower training needs with the steady growth of the tourism industry, the higher administrative training needs of a post-independence civil service, the setting up of the textile industry export processing zone, and the teaching of the benefits and the operation systems of cooperative societies to small and medium sugar planters. In December 1983, after 14 years working at the University of Mauritius and having already occupied the position of Pro-Vice Chancellor, I moved to Australia, where I was lucky to gain academic and senior international management exposure in the steel galvanizing industry. On my definite return to Mauritius in the late 90s, I was appointed chairperson of the Tertiary Education Commission with the task of securing greater efficiency and cost savings by the public institutions of higher education, which were presenting inflated budgets through many unfilled academic posts, which I found out had become obsolete and which needed to be replaced by fewer new posts, which are necessary and more relevant for the new courses. This is the kind of change I was talking about, that whatever we do every day, we have not only to think about what changes needed, but to take the initiative for bringing those changes. We also set down the framework for the granting of the university status to local academic institutions and for the approval of foreign universities wishing to set up their campus in Mauritius, beginning with a foreign university from India, followed by the Middlesex University and Aberystwyth University from UK. And today, of course, we have a large number of universities who have set their campuses in Mauritius. Ladies and gentlemen, here I am as an old-age citizen trying to provide some guidance and encouraging motivation to the new graduates. However, in wishing them good luck in their future endeavors, I cannot help thinking about the dark clouds above us and the impeding headwinds facing us. Yes, our country and the world have achieved much political, social, and economic, scientific, and technological progress over the last 80 years. Unfortunately, we are now at a stage where, having also survived pandemics and many world conflicts, the survival of life on our planet is critically threatened by the climate change, which is a result of human neglect, greed, and abuse of the environment. So, what can the new graduates, together with the support of the well-educated few, what can we all do for our country as a matter of urgency? I believe that we must individually, as the privileged, educated ones of our country, use our position of knowledge and influence to go and transmit and explain in simple terms, and not just leave it to the newspapers and the media. We, in our capacity as individual citizens, I think, should go and transmit and explain in simple terms to our families, to our relatives, friends, and colleagues the kind of challenges our country is facing, and persuade them to actively support and collaborate in the projects and programs of development which have started to be or will need to be undertaken in relation to the following. First, to be aware of the gloom of global warming, which is approaching very fast to the planet, caused by the carbon dioxide emissions arising from the massive use of fossil fuel for the generation of electric power. The effects of global warming affecting us directly in terms of the pollution of our atmosphere, the damage to our coral reefs. When the coral reefs disappear, the tourists will also disappear. So the damage to our coral reefs and the diminution of our beaches, of which we are proud. The problem of the rise of sea level and the climatic disruption resulting in cyclones, floods, drought, and so other calamities. The problem of effective management and disposal and recycle of garbage and waste materials and of unusable equipment. The inevitable continuing increases in the production cost of goods worldwide, caused by world political and economic uncertainty, and the non-respect of the rules of the World Trade Organization, especially coming from the biggest superpower of the planet, the United States of America. The dangerous importation and use of the large quantity of pesticides in Mauritius, especially of glyphosate. And finally, the current talk of the town, media, newspapers, conversations everywhere since the budget speech about the old age pension, with the entry age being extended to 65 years gradually over the next 5 years. We must tell people how much the old age pension is costing the country. And it has been published yesterday. 69.9 billion rupees annually. And the problem is that as the number of old age pensioners will continue to increase with the trend of longevity, while at the same time the population rate of growth of our country is steadily decreasing, the financial burden on the future younger generations will be overwhelming and unsustainable. Our country desperately needs to discover, invent, and develop new pillars of the economy so as to produce more revenue. Like the project of making Mauritius a higher education hub for Africa and emerging countries. And I think this project is an important one and should be a very important contribution to increase the revenue of Mauritius. Ladies and gentlemen, it's high time now for me to conclude my address. In thanking you for your kind patience and attention, let me end by offering again my warmest congratulations and to wish all the graduates and their parents and families bonne chance and bon courage. Thank you very much.